Good morning, children. This is English video session for class 10. The book we are doing now is The First Flight, chapter number 10, The Sermon at Benares. I repeat, First Flight, chapter number 10, The Sermon at Benares. We also saw in the beginning of the story which tells about the sermon which Gautama Buddha spoke, and about the story of Kisa Gotami who brought her dead child and asked for life, and the reply of Gautama Buddha. Kisa Gotami, like that we also given two more incidences like Martha who is in grief, Anya who is in grief for coping with the death of a loved one. Now, feelings of grief. What are all the feelings that are connected with grief? Feelings of grief. Although grief is unique and personal, a broad range of feelings and behaviors are commonly experienced after the death of a loved one. Sadness, anger, guilt and reproach, self-reproach, anxiety, loneliness, fatigue, disbelief. What is sadness? This is the most common and not necessarily manifested by crying. Okay, this is most common and is not necessarily connected with manifested with crying. It is inside. Anger is this is the one of the most confusing feeling for a survivor. There may be frustrations at not being able to prevent death, and a sense of not being able to exist without the loved one. This anger is the most confusing feeling for the one who is surviving. There are frustrations because they are not able to cope up and they were not able to prevent the death, and a sense of guilt, a sense of not being able to exist without the loved one, not able to exist without the loved one. Guilt and self-reproach. People may believe that they are not kind enough or caring enough to the person who died, or that the person should have seen the doctor sooner. So these are the ways of guilt and reproach. Anxiety is an individual may fear or he won't be able to care for herself or himself. Anxiety. He won't be able to care for his own self. Okay, his self or herself, that's anxiety. The individual may fear that he or she won't be able to care for their self. That is anxiety. What is loneliness in this is there are reminders throughout the day that the partner, family member or the friend is gone. For example, meals are no longer prepared the same way. Phone calls to share special moments don't happen. So loneliness, you are away from everything. Fatigue. There is an overall sense of feeling tired, exhausted. Disbelief. This occurs particularly if it is a sudden death. Okay. Helping others while experiencing grief. When a friend, loved one, or a co-worker is experiencing grief, how can we help? It helps to understand that grief is expressed through the variety of behaviors. Reach out to the others in their grief, but understand that some may not want to accept help and will not share their grief. Others will want to talk about their grief and feeling or reminiscence. Be patient and let the grieving person know that you care and are there to support him or her. Now let's see what is a good grief. Do we have a good grief? Let's see. Amita Ebzioni. Soon after my wife died, her car slid off an icy road in 1985. A school psychologist warned me that my children and I were not mourning in the right way. We felt angry. The proper first stage, he said, is denial. In late August this year, my 38-year-old son Michael died suddenly in his sleep, leaving behind his 2-year-old son and his wife expecting their next child. There is no set form of grief and no right way to express it. There seemed to be an expectation that after a great loss, we will progress systematically through the well known stages of grief. It is wrong, we are told, to jump to anger or to wallow too long in this stage before moving towards acceptance. But I was and am angry. To make parents bury their children is wrong. To have both my wife and son taken from me for forever and a day is cruel beyond words. A relative from Jerusalem, who is a psychiatrist, brought some solace by citing the maxim, "We are not to ask why, but what." The what is that which survivors in grief are bound to do for one another. Following that advice, my family, close friends, and I keep busy calling each other and giving long answers to the simple question, "How did your day go today?" We try to avoid thinking about either the immediate past or the bereft future. We take turns playing with Max, Michael's 2-year-old son. Friends spend nights with the young widow and will be among those holding hands when her baby is born. Focusing on what we do for one another is the only consolation we can find. So, the only way to eliminate grief of the person who has lost the dearest one is to extend consolation, feeling of care and love, and to make sure that to make them feel that you are there for them even at the extreme situations. This is the only way that a grief of an individual can be taken and life comes back to normal. Teaching someone, writing a page, teaching someone to understand new or difficult idea, helping each other to get over the difficult times. Thinking about oneself as unique as one among millions of others. Joy and sorrow. Let's read about joy and sorrow. Joy and sorrow. Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And the self same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. It is not a cup that holds your wine, the very cup that was burnt in the potter's oven. Is not the cup that holds your wine, is the very cup that is burnt in the potter's oven. And not the lute that soothed your spirit, the very wood that was hollowed out with knives. When your joys look deep into the heart, you shall find it only that which has given you sorrow, that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful again, look again into your heart, you shall see that in truth you were weeping, for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, no, sorrow is greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come when one sits alone with you at your board. Remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Okay? So, now let's see this following extracts from Tagore. Say not in grief that she is no more, but say in thankfulness that she was. Our death is not extinguishing of a light, but the putting out of the lamp because the dawn has come. What beautiful sentences with wonderful meanings, children. For Anne Gregory is cancelled by the CBSE children. You don't need to read it. I stop with this, children. Such a wonderful topic. You all have to, and it's of course difficult for you. You're damn young, so it's a little difficult, but you understand the essence of it when you read again and again. Do write the question and answers and the grammar part. Let's see in the next class. By this we have completed all the English topics that are suggested for you in class 10. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.